Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. Where to begin? We just finished looking at three minor scales, the natural minor, and then a couple of offshoots of that. The harmonic minor scale, which gives us a dominant chord on 5, very useful, and the melodic minor scale, which has some kind of weird little qualities that we talked about. But today I want to talk about a fourth minor scale, and a couple people have asked for it. It's, I guess, technically a mode of the major scale. It's the Dorian mode, a minor scale, super useful. Let's look at it. Well, thanks for being here. And if this is the second or third video of mine you've seen and what we're doing is useful for you, please subscribe to the channel. Subscribers help build the channel and get the message out. We're building a community of musicians who are committed to their own musicianship. My teacher said you must become your own theorist. And I'm hoping that what we're doing here is music theory for everyone. Music theory that supports your own investigations. What's good about music for you? There are, in a way, no right answers. That said, it's great to be able to have vocabulary to talk about what you're doing with your buddies and to help you think about what you're doing, when you sit down at your DAW or at the piano or guitar when you sing. Let's do a quick review and then kind of talk about the Dorian mode, where it lives in the minor scale universe. I've said this a ton, but it's worth repeating. The major scale, which is sort of the home base for our ear around scales, here the C major scale, is a collection of whole and half steps. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 and then a half step to get back home again. The minor scale that we talked about last lesson was the relative minor to that major scale. Now, to find the relative minor, it's a piece of cake. You go to the sixth step of the scale. In this case, it's A. And you get the A Aeolian or A natural minor scale. It has exactly the same notes as that C major scale, but we've started in a different place. In a way, that is the definition of how we talk about the modes as well. But this is a very important mode. It's the relative minor, and it's the minor scale that Western European music theory sort of took as its ground zero. Now, in our investigations of the Aeolian minor scale, we discovered that there was a 1 chord that was minor, a 4 chord that was minor, and a 5 chord that was minor. And it's a beautiful, soft sound that we hear in music, like sort of folk music. I love that flat 7-1 sound, that backdoor cadence. That's G to A minor. But classical composers really wanted a dominant chord on 5. And so we wound up with this sort of hybrid where the 7th step of the scale became sharp so that I could have a 5-7 chord. And that's really important in a lot of minor music. The 5-7 chord, that's a dominant chord, and it resolves to A minor there. Now, as it turns out, the other minor scale that we looked at, the ascending melodic minor and then the descending melodic minor, 2 different collection of notes, and you should review if you don't remember, has a 1 chord that's minor, and then the 4 chord could be major. The F is sharp there, as well as the 5 chord being major. Well, so now let's just review what we've got in our collection of sort of our chord bag here, because the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, they're really, really important to how we hear harmony in Western music and in pop music. So in the Aeolian mode, we had a minor 1, a minor 4, and a minor 5. That's the natural minor, and it's soft and beautiful. In the harmonic minor mode, we had a minor 1, a minor 4, kind of gives it a real sort of sad flavor, and a dominant 5 chord, a lot of push there. The melodic minor gave us the opportunity to have a major 4 and a major 5. Now, if you've been keeping a list in your head, you've realized there's a assemblage of minor sounds here that we haven't got to yet, and it's this: a minor 1, a major 4, and a minor 5. I just played A minor, D major, E minor. And if I added up all those notes, it's so beautiful. Oh, I love that sound. It's so soft because of the soft 5, but that major 4 chord has a kind of a brightness to it. If I, as I was just saying, if I added up all of those notes, I would get these. The F is sharp. A Dorian is what it says on my screen. Now that Dorian mode, that minor scale, which isn't really, I don't know, it's not in the method books that you learn if you're like studying violin or piano or any of those other sort of Western classical instruments. They hand you a Hanon book when you're a pianist, and there's every scale: major, relative minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor. They don't give you the Dorian minor scale, but it is used everywhere. Let's just look at a couple of chord progressions that sort of encapsulate what's good and juicy and beautiful about it. First of all, there's that Latin sound where the 1 chord alternates with the 4 chord that's major. Really couldn't play with Santana without using that chord progression, right? The Dorian mode, so beautiful. And what makes it beautiful is that major 6th degree. Well, one of the most famous Dorian sounds I know comes from the jazz lexicon, the tune "So What," Miles Davis song, right? And those 2 chords right there are just a beautiful example of leveraging the Dorian mode's quality to create a brightness which is still kind of mixed with melancholy and sadness. D is my bass. And then this sound here, a stack of 4ths with a major 3rd on the top, emphasizes the B. That B is that raised 6th degree. Also, just that stack of 4ths with the major 3rd on top, the "So What" chord in general is just so lovely, right? The Dorian mode has a little kind of push and pull to it. There's no hard cadence from the 5, but there is a kind of a tendency towards the 1. Let's go back to the A Dorian mode. And here's a great progression. A minor, again, we're going to stay in A Dorian minor. 1, major on the 3, major on the 4, and then minor on the 5. And when you get to that minor on the 5, you realize you're not in Kansas anymore, because the sound of the minor A, the major C, and the major D makes your ear want to hear this, doesn't it? It makes it want to hear the G chord. But we don't go to the G, we go to E minor instead. It's a real strong rock sound. It's a powerful minor sound that doesn't have the sort of persistent softness of the Aeolian minor, and it doesn't have that hard dominant sound of the harmonic minor or the ascending melodic minor. The Dorian mode is in many respects the most modern of the minor modes. And if you're jamming on guitar with your friends, it provides a great 7-tone minor scale to use, right? Something about that raised 6th degree, it just exudes complicated feelings. Well, Thanks to the subscribers and commenters who said, hey, what about the Dorian mode? I always thought there was 4. Well, the Dorian mode, it's not really a minor scale in the conventional classical sense of the word, but it is a really important modern minor scale. We'll probably wind up talking about all of the modes at one time or another. But I think the next thing we'll look at is, and I need to wrap this up, I know, but the next thing we're going to look at is the concept of key signatures. Undoubtedly, you've heard them talked about. If you're not a musically literate person, if you don't read music a lot, you don't have to look at the beginning of the music and see all those sharps and flats warning you, this is sharp, this is flat. That's what the key signature does. And I think a lot of our thinking about scales, especially if we're trained musicians, is in relationship to key signatures. But the more you can start to separate your thinking about scales from your thinking about key signatures, the more you'll begin to understand how scales, minor scales, modes like the Dorian mode, and key signatures really aren't the same thing. A scale is a terrain, a field of action in which you kind of do your thing. You either make chords in it, you make melodies in it. It's not the key signature. I think it's a really interesting, complicated interrelationship, depending on how you've been trained when you were younger. You can have like legacy ideas about it, which may not be useful. Listen, I know I have to shut up, but we're going to get to key signatures next, and I definitely have some thoughts about it. In the meantime, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe, ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos, and I'll see you next time.